Excited that we are here today in Riverside County, and I'm really excited and appreciative of the work that was done yesterday and what we got to see in Imperial County, really going to the frontiers of Imperial County and seeing geothermal energy occurring and looking at the growth path of the Lithium Valley in California, which is going to be amazing both for this region, the state, and really broadly the world in terms of where we're going. Very, very exciting in terms of what is occurring there. Today, we are going to begin with a focus here in Riverside County on some of the incredible economic work that they're doing here. And so awesome opportunity and innovation that is occurring right here in this county. So there's leadership from every corner of the state that is in this room. From small counties to large counties, from the way north to down south to the coastline, and that's where the policymaking occurs. And that's the incredible leadership. It's the drive that occurs within this organization. And more locally, we currently are sitting in the 4th District of Riverside County, which is represented by the Supervisor V. Manny Perez, from Riverside County. And so I want to have him come up here and give a welcome to you all as the host county today. So ladies and gentlemen, Supervisor V. Manny Perez.
Thank you, John. Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. If you drove in this morning, you probably flew in this morning in the sense of all the wind and the gusts that's going on. And it's interesting because that's one of the issues that we're facing. When you think about air quality issues and you think about PM 2.5 and why we need to restore or mitigate the Salton Sea and why it is important that we work with our partners like South Coast Air Quality Management District so we can mitigate those dust storms that we receive here, it's crazy. You just got to step outside and you'll see what I'm talking about. This morning it seemed to have gotten worse than last night over the course of the hours. And who knows, supposedly it's going to reach up to 75 miles per hour. So be prepared if you're flying back. Hopefully you're flying back out of Ontario, not Palm Springs. But in any event, it is a little scary, but you'll get home. Welcome to the 4th District, ladies and gentlemen. Supervisor Perez, I'm here with Karen. Hey, Karen. She's also a county supervisor of Riverside County. We're here with staff. They're going to be speaking to you in a bit. Juan Perez, our Chief Operating Officer, is here. Stephanie Adams, our Deputy Director. Mike Walsh, Assistant Director. Joaquin Tijerina. Heidi Marshall. Jeff Van Wagenen. They're all here. And I'm hoping I'm not missing anybody from Riverside County. But they will be presenting in a bit regarding all the different efforts, potentially what we're working on as a county. And there's quite a bit. Now, the 4th District, ladies and gentlemen, the County of Riverside is one of the fastest growing counties in the state of California, if not the fastest growing. And to my understanding right now, we are one of the largest, not only in the state of California, but even in the Union. Larger than 10 states is my understanding. And the area that's growing the most, it seems to be the Pass and this district here. Now, out of the entire county of Riverside, the 5 districts, my district is the largest, almost 5,000 square miles. So literally it takes a while to get, at least a couple of hours to get from one end of the district all the way to the other. Now, as a result of redistricting, my district got actually even larger than that now, than what it used to be. Now we actually have the Windy Point area, obviously Desert Hot Springs, Palm Springs, all our 10 cities, all the unincorporated areas, all the way down to Blythe, which is what I had already before, down to the Salton Sea, which you toured yesterday, the North Shore area, and now I actually go up the hill, up 74, up to 43 to Idlewild. We represent close to about 500,000 folks. So it is a huge, huge, huge district. We probably have around 22, 23, 24 departments. And our CEO, Jeff Van Wagenen, will be able to speak to that. He's also here. Sorry, Jeff, I missed you. Our CEO, who will also be speaking about the county of Riverside. It is a massive district, to the point where I was telling staff that there's so much going on that I get overwhelmed just because of the issues, just because of the concerns, everything that comes at us. I think Mr. Carson was asking me right now earlier if there was a heated debate that we had yesterday or at a supervisor meeting. Well, interesting enough, now that I think about it, maybe what you were watching was the issue of animal services. And folks are crazy about their animals here in the county of Riverside. I don't know if they are where you are from, but where we're here in this area, in this neck of the woods, people want us to get to a 90% no-kill area, if you will, no-kill county when it comes to cats and dogs. I don't know what they're asking of you out in your districts, but that's what they're asking of us. And I think maybe that was the debate you might have saw at that meeting on Tuesday. But the issues are endless, ladies and gentlemen. I started off with AQMD and air quality issues and concerns, and right now it's best if you stay indoors than going outdoors, according to the South Coast Air Quality Management District website. But transportation issues. On any given day, you can be driving down here. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, as I was driving to RCTC, Riverside County Transportation Commission, to be with my colleagues up there regarding transportation issues, coming this way, going east, there was back-to-back traffic on the 10 freeway. Back in the day when I was growing up here, that didn't exist. Now it seems like it's an ongoing thing that happens here. Distribution centers played a major role in all that, whether that be in San Bernardino County or in Riverside County, specifically in the Moreno Valley area, and more to come potentially. So transportation is a major concern for us. Obviously, we're doing what we can to expand transportation, especially when we talk about the issue of CV rail. That's one of our goals here in the future, is to have CV rail where we get folks coming in from LA, potentially other parts of the state of California, to come and visit us here. Now, you might have heard of a few events that take place here, such as the Coachella Fest, such as Stagecoach. Folks, if you don't have to be out in the streets during those days and you're out here, do not be. Because you're talking about, at least inside, about 150 to 200,000 people inside that area where the concert is taking place. Outside there, we're sometimes up to 500,000 people are showing up here for that entire weekend. 3 days. Now, right now we have the tennis tournament. And if you were part of the tour yesterday, you drove past the arena, the Acrisure Arena. Well, just last night we had Madonna in town. I wish I could have went, but didn't get a chance to go. Madonna was here, and they actually have premier events there on an ongoing basis. That's actually a project that I'm very proud of, in which we worked on with planning. Juan played a major role in that, in which we completed that in two and a half years? Less than that. We never done that ever before, and it was all privately funded. Up to $400 million, maybe even more than that. And so we're very proud of that arena, and obviously we'll have more events there as well. We have over 150, 175 golf courses in this area, but we also are dealing with the issue of water. The concerns around the Sound Sea and the Colorado River, they're very real for us here. And as you went past the Sound Sea yesterday, you might have seen the lake bed and how it's shrinking. And so those are the concerns that we have, in a sense that when you have more lake bed exposed, if you will, that dust, when we have those storms, they go up in the air, and then our kids are breathing that. We have studies in Imperial County, and one is being worked on in Riverside County, that state that as a result of that, we have higher nosebleeds, asthma rates, and respiratory illnesses, especially among our kids in the surrounding area. And so we have to be mindful of that and also do what we can to ensure that we build out the North Lake pilot project, in which Juan is going to be speaking to in a bit. There's so many more issues that we can get into, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm going to stop there. I want to welcome you. Thank you for being here. My friends from Imperial County, thank you for being here. Really appreciate you all. I've known you for many, many years, going back to the State Assembly days. Becky used to work for me when I was a State Assembly member. Thank you, Becky. Miguel, when we worked on the, in Calexico, on the, what was that again? The New River, right? And obviously all the supervisors that are here. I really appreciate what you've done and for obviously supporting me over the course of years. Our staff is here as well. And take care.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. All right. Thank you very much, Supervisor Perez. I really appreciate that. I want to reference 3 individuals that are in this room. And they're the ones that are the leaders and workhorses that get the work done within your counties. They include supervisor. They include the CAOs, that is Susan Murnishi, Miguel Figueroa, and Jeff Van Wagenen, who's the president of the California Association of County Executives. Huge thanks to the partners. Y'all are the ones that allow this to happen so that we can get together, so that we can connect, so that we can learn from you, build relationships with you, and so that you can learn what is happening in counties so you have a better understanding of the context that is relevant when you're having conversations about whatever business that you are involved in. And so with that, what I'd like to do is bring up our esteemed second vice president, Supervisor Susan Ellenberg. I'm going to ask everyone who is going to be speaking to take your badge off so that we can get really good pictures of you without your label. And am very excited to have our second vice president come up here. She's been very engaged with us, a leader and the chair of the Urban Caucus, so the 14 urban counties in California. And that, of course, is Supervisor Susan Ellenberg from Santa Clara County. Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Graham, for the intro, and Manny. I'm so delighted to be here. Although I was way more delighted before Manny mentioned that nobody should be flying out of Palm Springs today, and I'm set to do that at 2. So I'm a little a little more antsy than I was half an hour ago. But I really want to just share appreciation for everyone who put today and yesterday's tour together. This is part of what I really enjoy about being a CSAC officer is the opportunity to really visit counties across the entire state to understand the issues that are confronting urban, rural, and suburban counties, and to make sure that I am positioned to be an effective and informed advocate for all of us. So to everyone who answered questions yesterday, who organized the tour, and who really taught me a great deal, thank you very much. This morning, we're going to be focusing on economic development in the North Valley. We have a phenomenal panel, and the panel is going to be moderated by Jeff Van Wagenen, who Graham just introduced. Not only is Jeff I'm just having a morning with this with the wind. Not only the CEO of Riverside, but very involved again at the state level through the CASE organization. He serves as an advisor to the CSAC board. And welcome.
Supervisor Ellenberg, thank you very much for that introduction. And don't be scared. When Supervisor Perez was talking about the wind, that was just actually an attempt to get folks to stay a little bit longer, right? It's one of our economic development strategies that we may be talking about. And the second issue that Supervisor Perez spoke about was our animal shelter. And so Graham was kind enough to give us the bus the second day. So we're going to take everyone to the shelters and give you a pet to take home on your way back. But what we'd like to do, I'd like to first underscore a couple of comments that Supervisor Perez made. Riverside County is growing. Between 1990 and 2020, Riverside County doubled in size. Between 2010 and 2020, more people moved to Riverside County than any other county in the state of California. Between 21 and 22, more people moved to Riverside County than any other county in the country, with the single exception of Maricopa, Arizona. We're growing. That growth is happening, and it's happening here. As Supervisor Perez said, much of the growth is coming in the 4th District, which we affectionately refer to as from the palms to the pines, from the deserts to the mountaintop. In the eastern Coachella Valley specifically, which is our largest continuous unincorporated area, we have 26,000 residents. We expect that number to grow 10 times in the coming decades. With that growth comes an exciting opportunity. And by the way, Who all went on the tour yesterday? Who drove from Palm Springs through the cities of Palm Desert, Indian Wells, Rancho Mirage, Indio, Coachella, on their way to Thermal, Oasis, Mecca, down around the Salton Sea? And when you look at that area and what you see and you say, there's no way that area can absorb another 225,000 people. There's no way in the coming decades it's going to look like it needs to look. I'll just remind folks to think about what it looked like where we were sitting now in 1950. All those areas you drove through yesterday looked just like the areas that you toured in the eastern Coachella Valley. It's happening. And what we need to do is be intentional about that growth, because our greatest opportunity is all those individuals coming to bring vibrancy, culture, excitement to the community. But the challenges, as Supervisor Perez mentioned, are many. I don't know if like you, when Supervisor Perez was speaking, it felt a little bit like a roller coaster. The highs, down to the lows of the challenge, back up to the highs. And that's what we exist in a state of every day. Infrastructure, certainly roads and highways, but also water and sewer, broadband, closing the digital divide, accessible and affordable housing. All of these things, good jobs transferring from an agricultural community or economy to whatever comes next. So what you're going to hear about today is a group of county experts who have been part of that intentional, collaborative, cooperative effort to really build the economy and workforce of all of the Coachella Valley, all of Riverside County, but particularly the eastern Coachella Valley. So I'm going to introduce them, get out of the way. We're going to have a little bit of a mixed bag presentation today. We're going to hear from Juan Perez talking about some specific work we're doing to develop the eastern Coachella Valley revolutionary work. We're going to have a discussion with Stephanie Adams, who leads our workforce development department. We're going to hear from Mike Walsh, who leads, among other things, our housing department, both of whom work for Heidi Marshall, who is our Director of Housing and Workforce Solutions. Heidi's not going to be on the panel, but she's going to be like that parent in the wings watching her folks succeed in front of all of you. And then we're going to get another presentation from Joaquin Tijerina, who is from our economic development and really takes the lead on economic development here in the Coachella Valley. So Juan, Stephanie, Mike, and Joaquin, work your way up.
And I want to thank Supervisor for setting the stage. Really did a great job of setting the stage with really the many issues we're facing out here in the eastern Coachella Valley. And Jeff as well, talking about population growth and how we plan for that and how we accommodate that. And yesterday you had a chance to see the vastness of this area. So today, as we're sitting here kind of at one end of the valley, we think of the city of Coachella at the far end of the valley as being a little bit of kind of like the terminus, and that's about 30 miles away. But when we're sitting here, us and hopefully us, and perhaps others after us too, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, we will be thinking of the city of Coachella being about halfway through the Coachella Valley, because there's a whole other 30 or so miles all the way bordering to Imperial County, where we're going to be experiencing growth in this county. And how do we plan for that? And how do we set that future for us? So our theme today is really transforming and building thriving communities. We're going to touch on different aspects of it. I'm going to touch on infrastructure because it's very foundational to the work that we do, right, in government. And without that, there really cannot be growth, cannot be development, cannot be community building. So how are we tackling that as a county? So under the leadership of Supervisor Perez a number of years ago, we decided to kind of bring everything under an umbrella for the eastern Coachella Valley. I'll talk a little bit more about the eastern Coachella Valley and the vastness of it, called ECV Prospera, Eastern Coachella Valley Prospers, because it's really an overall initiative meant to make investments in this area so that it can grow appropriately, so that it'll have the services and the public facilities needed to support a high quality of life with that growth. And one of our main tools is a EIFD. We just love acronyms, don't we? But how many of us remember redevelopment? Redevelopment, right? So redevelopment was this powerful tool that we had at the state level for decades to do exactly that, redevelop, and be able to reinvest future property tax into our communities to be able to do the projects that are necessary for their growth. So a number of years ago, that tool went away. The legislature struggled for a number of years to look for a replacement of that. And what they arrived at maybe 10, 15 years ago now or so was enhanced infrastructure financing districts, EIFD. I guess we'll call them EFIDs or something. We'll come up with a little bit of a shorter acronym. And they are essentially the son or daughter of redevelopment. Riverside County has embarked on 3 of them. When we were checking a few years ago, there were only about 10 statewide. That number may have crept up a little bit, but it's still a fairly new tool. And it's a tool where we can reinvest a portion of our property tax growth into infrastructure and areas. I mentioned Riverside County has 3. So we start our first one out in the wine country. Supervisor Chuck Washington, you all know Supervisor Washington, kind of led the way with that one out in the wine country. We had another one in an area around kind of south of along 74 corridor, like between the cities of Lake Elsinore and the city of Perez in the unincorporated area. And now this one that we're embarking on and have started is the largest one in the state. And it is meant to be a tool to bring infrastructure, and you see some of the categories there: water, wastewater, utilities, transportation, communications, saltancy, I'll talk about that, housing, community facilities. So again, just to put it in context, we went through this effort to do this major planning, over 9,000 parcels. It involves direct mailings. Can you imagine sending direct mailings to 9,000 residents and trying to explain to them that we're not raising taxes, but what we are doing is taking a portion of your property tax growth, the property tax you're going to pay anyway, and reinvesting that directly back into your communities to plan for that growth. So that is very much what we have done. It covers a very vast area. You see some of the unincorporated communities there, and you see the Salton Sea. Supervisor mentioned Salton Sea certainly has been a topic for many decades of discussion at the state, county, of course, national level as to what we can do on restoration of the Salton Sea. Riverside County is engaged now with our partners at the state level, at the federal level, partners through the Salton Sea Authority. That also includes our partners in Imperial County to launch a project, one of several projects along the Salton Sea. I believe you drove by North Shore yesterday and you saw the North Shore Yacht Club. Envision around that yacht club, when you look out, rather than a receding Salton Sea, you're going to see an area that's built up with berms, about 150 acres or so of a area that's there for deep water habitat, for recreational opportunities, for community restoration as well. So that is very much a catalyst. It's a demonstration project. Under the supervisor's leadership, the county has taken the lead on that. And we're looking to get that to construction here in the next hopefully year or so. That may be a little bit hard to see where you're at, but I do want to talk a little bit about the EIFD. So the way we handle this tool is we are setting aside 20% of the growth in property tax to go back into infrastructure in this area, in this large geographic area that we mentioned. So how did we arrive at that? So it's always a balancing act, right? We all rely as counties on property tax, as that is foundational to fund all of the many county services that we provide, right? So we have to make sure that we are leaving enough property tax to go to the general fund to provide those services. But at the same time, the concept of the EIFD is, if we can make the appropriate investments with the remaining, in this case, 20%, the rising tide will lift all boats, and the remaining 80% will actually be greater than if we had not used that tool, okay? Because it will lift property tax values throughout the county, throughout this area, to help us plan for that growth. So what are the facilities to do that? Foundational things: water and wastewater, transportation, utilities. We're working through issues out in the Coachella Valley with many partners to look at the future of electricity in this area and how do we plan for that. The Salton Sea itself is foundational to that, and there will be funding from the EIFD that goes to that. Housing, Mike, we'll talk more about housing, another very, very key component, community facilities. So as of today, we're anticipating that the EIFD will raise somewhere around $230 million or so over the next 30 years. Obviously, that's a lot of money, not nearly enough to meet all the needs, but it is meant to be match funding for grants. We've been very successful through Supervisor and his leadership and our partners at the state level and receiving grants out here in the Coachella Valley. This can help with that. This can help leverage projects that other public agencies, our Coachella Valley Water District, our Parks Districts, and others are able to bring and help to essentially together leverage these dollars into a much larger assembly of funding and investment for this region. So how are we doing this? We're doing this through a partnership effort. We partner through a lot of community meetings. We partner with nonprofits to get the word out to the community. We're going to be working with the community, boots on the ground, to hear from them as to specific projects that they want to see happen with these dollars. And we'll look at that, and we'll look at it through the lens of what are we doing and how will this project help, A, improve quality of life, B, improve property values so that it can, again, lift that and lift the property values needed to then fund not just the infrastructure, but also the many services that the county provides. So we're very much excited by this. We approved it about a year ago or so. We're starting the effort now, and stay tuned. We hope to share more with you.
Thanks, Juan. And one of the things, obviously, this is a regional conference, so we're specifically talking about the Coachella Valley. And Supervisor Perez has taken a very active role since his time on the board, and even before that, his time in the Assembly. But it's also important to note that this is a full board effort. Supervisor Spiegel is here today, certainly, obviously, showing her interest in the region. You saw Supervisor Gutierrez yesterday on the tour, and we're lucky that our full board supports the development of all aspects of our community. And maybe, Graham, the next regional conference, next time come to Riverside, we'll go to Western Riverside County, and so we'll celebrate Supervisor Spiegel and her efforts. We're going to go now to workforce development. Stephanie, would you say a little bit about what your department does, and then I'll have some questions for you.
So I'm Stephanie Adams, County of Riverside Workforce Development, and essentially what my department does is we help employers grow, thrive, and expand. And by doing that, we also work with our job seekers by helping them upskill to meet the needs of our employers. So we have a lot of great programs, mostly federally funded, but we have funds that we can invest, again, in companies to help them grow, and then also in job seekers to help them obtain career technical education.
Why is the Coachella Valley a great location for new and emerging employment sectors?
And so you heard Juan say that even surrounding the Salton Sea, we have a population of 26,000 people. So most of that population is of working age. And if you look at the unemployment data for this region, you'll see pockets where the unemployment rates are a little bit higher than sometimes the national average. But the data can also be very deceiving, and the reason for that is because there is a lot of seasonal work in this region. And so when we look at the seasonal work, a lot of it's hospitality and agriculture. But I want to kind of take a look at the agriculture industry and tie it into, since we are talking about the lithium sector, and the fact that there are so many transferable skills that we can use by taking people that are in different sectors and kind of moving them around as we grow and expand. So people that are in agriculture, they're already familiar with land use, environmental issues, which is heavily needed in this new and emerging sector. And then you also have the soft skills. You have hardworking people. They show up to work. They're dedicated. And so that is a huge, huge plus to employers. And that's always what they're looking for, especially when they come to us for help. They're just like, we need people that have the soft skills, that are hardworking, that are willing to work. And that is definitely here in this region. I see it every day. And then another thing, too, is I want to highlight the education system that's here also in this region. And just because I want to highlight this because a lot of times when we talk about regions that are growing, that have the ability to grow, the infrastructure is not always there. But here it is. So we have in the Coachella Valley a great K through 12 school systems. They have a lot of CTE programs. But then you also have the community colleges that are present. You have Palo Verde and Blythe College of the Desert. Then we also have Cal State San Bernardino out here and University of California, Riverside. I work with all of these entities regularly, and they are here. They are ready to train job seekers to meet the demands of the employers, whether that's in the lithium sector, healthcare, I mean, the list goes on and on. And so this region is just ready to continue to grow and to thrive.
With all that potential, how do we actually encourage the folks that are here to actually get into that workspace?
That's another great question. And this is something that I actually get asked a lot in the workforce development field. And I always go back to the healthcare example. So everybody in the audience probably knows something about healthcare, right? That there's medical assistants, different levels of nursing. And sometimes, we'll even know what a nurse, makes an hour. Why? It's because it's there. It's familiar to us. And that's what we need to do with some of these new and emerging sectors. Yesterday was a perfect example. So we did a tour of the Salton Sea, and we got to see the plant where they are extracting the lithium. But that's the kind of thing that we need to show the public when we are working with these new and emerging sectors, especially starting with the students, the high school students. Get them out there, show them what the benefits are. What people want to see when they are entering a new sector is, what is the growth opportunity? What can I eventually become? And most job seekers know that if they don't have the work experience, yes, you start out as an entry-level position. But like going back to healthcare, I could start out as an entry-level nurse, a CNA, as most of you know, and then become a licensed vocational nurse where I am making a healthy living at that point. And that's what we need to show kids with these new sectors that are coming up.
How do we, as a region, work to try and reduce the barriers that can get people into the workforce?
That's a tough one, and that exists everywhere when people are looking for employment. One of the things that I really like about this county is we're already doing that. So this county works relentlessly day after day on an integrated services delivery model, whereas when a resident comes to any type of government agency and they need assistance, it's right there, it's available, and it is easy for them to access. And I think with this region, it's growing and these new and emerging sectors, ISD is going to tie into that perfectly, because what we can do is quickly help people with the barriers that they're facing. And those barriers are oftentimes, usually, childcare, transportation. And I just want to touch on the Workforce Development Board for a little bit while I'm answering this question. As you guys are working with employers, refer them to us because we can help coordinate these resources. For example, if somebody is living in the area of Mecca and we know that there's going to be high levels of employment closer to Imperial, we can work with transportation agencies to coordinate bus route schedules, things like that. We can work with our fellow county departments to ensure that there's adequate childcare. So that's kind of the beauty of the workforce development entity in itself, is we can act as that navigator for you.
Stephanie, anything you want to say before we move to housing to try and have one last pitch for everybody?
Yeah, thank you. So again, really excited to be here. I'm excited for this region and what's to come. I really love working out here. And I'm excited to also hear about housing. And so in case a lot of you probably don't know, Housing and Workforce Solutions, we're under one agency because we understand that workforce and housing must go hand in hand. And so I'm really excited for Mike to share the resources that are coming into this region also for housing.
Thanks, Stephanie. And we'll have some questions for Stephanie at the end of this. One of the reasons why Riverside County has seen the exponential growth over the last 30 years is because it's been deemed as an affordable community. But it's affordable if you're living in San Diego, Orange County, or LA, so it's relatively affordable. It's not as affordable, certainly for the folks who are living in Riverside County and often working in Riverside County. So, Mike, what are you doing about that?
Well, at least I'm glad that Stephanie's excited to hear what I have to say on housing, because I'm not sure if anyone else is. But I think as our division, I think as our larger county team, I'd say that as our friends in building, planning, safety, we're all working together in the Eastern Coachella Valley. We have a housing ombudsman, because we have a lot of smaller, what we call Polanco mobile home parks, or small mom and pop owners that may not have the technical savvy to go through the development. So we work, that team, whereas people on the ground and us on the housing side, we'll work with the families on how you obtain financing, so how we create innovative partnerships, because everyone has different housing needs, and they change. Like at one point in your time of your life, you may have lived in an apartment. Then you want to grow from that apartment, or you may have shared even a room with someone. Then you want to go off and buy your own home. And so we have different types of products and different types of pieces to help people along those journeys. So we offer up to $100,000 of down payment assistance for families. We try and be as flexible as possible to work with a variety of different developments. We know that, particularly on our low-income housing families, even with the $100,000, it doesn't work. So we'll work with groups like Coachella Valley Housing Coalition and their mutual self-help program, and how we went through the communities of North Shore and Mecca, and Coachella Valley Housing Coalition has built several hundreds of units, and I know they're in Imperial County building homes in Brawley and Imperial and other locations. And these sort of models, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. And there's, like, as we saw yesterday, there's going to be people at different steps of the job ladder. Like, there's going to be people that are earning higher incomes and lower incomes. And we need to make sure that we create a housing environment that is available for everyone along those journeys, that from the farm worker who is picking table grapes and all the way up to that engineer that's working in that lithium plant.
You spoke a little bit about bringing units on board. Can you do a deeper dive and really talk about the extraordinary work that you and your team have been doing and what's in the pipeline?
Yeah, so a number of years ago, we did analysis of what we were doing as a county. And county-wide, we were doing less than 400 units of affordable units a year. And like a county, as Supervisor has said, like a massive county, 2.3 million population, less than 400 units is not really moving the needle on the real needs of what we're seeing in terms of rent burden, that over 80% of extremely low-income people are severely rent burdened in our county. And so we started like this process of like developing a pipeline with nonprofit partners and laying it all out. What's actually out there on the board with the intended purpose of how do we actually expand the production of housing? Because when we keep everything in our own little silos, like, oh, what's the city of Coachella doing, the city of Riverside doing? If it's just here, we can't see the full picture, because the majority of the funding that we're going after is at the state level. It comes at the region. And so we started analyzing what would it take to move these projects forward. So we would look at them on an individual basis, analyzing how competitive they would be for state grants, federal grants, and pushing folks like, hey, you know, you really should go after cap and trade dollars. Oh, you really should go after the multifamily housing program. Developing a partnership with our behavioral health division, going after no place like home units. And so we've secured the second largest number of no place like home dollars in the state as a county. And we've seen our production go from less than 400 units a year to over 2,000 units are currently under construction in the county. And now with more than probably 10, 12,000 units in the pipeline at a variety of stages. That doesn't mean there's not risks, and there's not, like with the state budget where it is and less dollars coming available with construction costs going up. But we have to be nimble in how, as we move forward, and coming up with different sort of housing options. We made it a strategic investment. I say we, but I feel like a little bit like athletes when they receive a score at the MVP, they say you have to thank God for those sort of things. As a good county bureaucrat, I have to thank our leadership of our board of supervisors to move this forward. But like making a strategic investment of $2 million in the Coachella Valley Catalyst Fund. That's going to be dollars that went in, $2 million of ARPA that will now recycle through. And then when interest rates have gone up, they made a loan into a project here in Palm Springs that like had, when interest rates are 7.5%, now they can blend that down to 4.5%. And then now that will save $2 million or so of that project cost on that project, so that we don't and then we'll get that money back into the ecosystem and moving forward. And our Board of Supervisors has made huge investments of ARPA, CARES Act dollars in the expansion, not just in the 4th District. The 4th District has made a huge amount of progress in a number of units, but across the entire county.
Thanks for that. And I don't know about the rest of the counties, but in Riverside County, it's God, board, right? That's that priority. And we also have a guiding principle in the executive office: the board is always right. So that's helpful as we work through these issues as well. Mike, you talked about partnership. One of the nonprofit partners we work with, Lift to Rise, has adopted a Cuban proverb: when the sun rises in the Coachella Valley, it rises for everyone. So what is it that you and your folks are doing about the equitable development of housing?
Yeah, at the very base, like a home is foundational for all of us. Like like housing first in general has gotten like very different pieces, but at the core of everything, a home is like the base what folks need. And so what we're trying to make sure that we are having housing for every like level, making sure that we're having units for people that are recently homeless. We went through a lot of farm worker communities in the eastern Coachella Valley. Like they're just working families throughout our valley, throughout our county. And I would just say, like, yes, we went through Mecca. Mecca has a poverty rate of over 42%. Like North Shore has asthma rates of 20 to 25%. As that is, we see that with the receding of the Salton Sea. And so we as a county, we partnered with community groups to secure a $4 million Transformative Climate Communities Project Development Grant to analyze like the area of North Shore and Mecca of how we can increase transportation, but also knowing that a number of these units are in dilapidated or are not condition. How do we see preservation come into play? How are we like connecting the solar readiness, microgrids? Because those wind storms that are popping up, like our friends in EMD and others, the big concerns, like when those power poles that go down, we like 2+ years ago, the community of North Shore was out power for 3-4 days, and we were having to try and analyze how to address that. So how do we have solar or microgrid backups to move those pieces? Because housing is a piece, but as Juan stated before, like infrastructure is part of that. And as we can connect housing projects that with the dollars that they can pull in from infrastructure, it creates a system that water line that the housing project's putting in is going to benefit everyone on that street, not just the affordable housing project. And how we can tie those pieces together really is going to create, like, as you said, like a valley where the sun rises all.
Mike, I want to go off script on one, but it ties really everything you're doing together from the systemic down to the individual. Anybody who is going to Google Eastern Coachella Valley and some of our challenges will come across the Oasis Mobile Home Park. Will you talk a little bit about the challenge that park faced and the support we got from the board, from the state, and the work that multiple departments are doing to try and address that challenge?
Yeah, so Oasis Mobile Home Park is, I think as of today, a 200-space mobile home park that sits on a combination of a lot T, tribal land, and free land. About 4 or 5 years ago today, they got a report from EPA that they were testing of arsenic level in the park of over 80 parts per billion. The residents there were seeing rashes on their skin. They were dealing with power that was going in and out, and a owner of a property that was basically harassing in a whole bunch of different conditions. Under the leadership initially from like the board was like, okay, this is largely a water problem. The county set aside dollars to get a water tank out for families so they could have potable drinking water while the owner got their act together. But nothing was necessarily changing. And so thanks to Assemblymember Garcia, $30 million was appropriated out of the state budget to help families relocate out of the park, because that's what residents were asking. And what we know in terms of development process, it's like we say, thank you for $30 million, but like we can't get a project built tomorrow to get everyone out in terms of, and how are we, as the systemic issues of projects in eastern Coachella Valley sometimes are not necessarily as competitive for some of these state programs. And so like we're having to balance those pieces out. But we were successful in receiving home key dollars. And like, so you think home key is like homeless housing in big urban settings. We used home key dollars to buy mobile homes and put them in 107 units in existing mobile home park, and take people out of unpermitted mobile home parks because they are homeless by definition because it's unstable, and get them into housing. So we were able to get, of those 107, 77 families came from Oasis Mobile Home Park. Then we started talking with families and like trying to relocate other pieces out, and everyone said like, because they're owners, even though like this unit may look awful, but they own it, it's theirs. And so people are asking for like, how do we come up with home ownership opportunities for these folks? And that's a hard question to ask. It's like, and so I give credit to Leah Rodriguez and our team of coming up with the idea of the Oasis Home Ownership Opportunity Program, or collectively known as OHOP. We were going to try and get some fundraising with IHOP, but like that's for next month. But like the idea is like $100,000 allow families to do anything they would like. They can go buy a home. They can buy a lot in North Shore and relocate their mobile there if they want. They can move into buy a manufactured unit, however they are moving forward. And it's giving families the ownership and because that they can make their own choices. And I would say, like, this is such a collective, like, Jeff is an attorney, and I'm sure this is going to be taught in law school classes at some point, because the cross-jurisdictional issues is an absolute nightmare. Because even though it's in the county, as I mentioned before, it's on tribal ground. So we have no authority to really go in to the park. So we've been working with our friends at the Torres Martinez tribe, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and a whole host of other agencies of how we can get authority. And as you all know, because we're most all work in government, it takes a long time and faster than it probably, like, not as fast as it needs to happen. But we're trying to be as flexible as possible. And like today, and where we have like moved out like close to 100 house families out of the park. And I would say, like, the challenge there and like the sad reality is the park owner keeps moving people back in. And so it's like we're fighting against like the tide. And this is like why the importance of the cross-jurisdictional collaboration is so incredibly important, and trying how we moving forward and building up trust with families. And the other piece, like I say, that we're hopefully be launching in the next couple of months is many families, like even they're undocumented, or they even like anyone who wants to buy a mobile home. Mobile homes, like if you're not sitting on real foundation, there's not really financing that works for like that long-term financing. So you end up having to get interest rates of 10, 14%. And so it's and oftentimes like people like maybe saw the John Oliver special on HBO, like, but like this idea of like the park owners oftentimes are the lenders at 10, 14%, and then they have like the conditions that they'll take the unit back quickly and move someone else out. So we're working with Rural Communities Assistance Corporation of trying to come up with a product, as with the Lift to Rise and their Coachella Valley Catalyst Fund, on how we can get a loan product for low-income families. We'll pilot it at Oasis, but something that we could take across the county and other sort of locations that get interest rates for buying mobiles in spaces where they rent at like maybe 5-6%. So that would allow an increase of availability of home ownership, because a new mobile is $130,000. A new stick-built home may be $300,000. So if we can have availability of spaces in parks, this is a way we can leverage other sort of tools. And I really they said at a panel like last week that my mom like says like marriage is a choice, and like every day she wakes up and chooses whether to be with my dad or not, which is somewhat disconcerting. But this idea, like, we have as bureaucrats and people here, we have a choice on how we like respond to conditions like Oasis or other sort of challenges on housing. It's like that we can either choose like the fine, like it's like, well, the rule says this and like I can't move forward, or we could choose to jump in like 10 toes down and how we can actually solve these problems. And I think that's like our collective larger county team, from county council, from building and safety code, workforce development. We're all working together on how we can get to that piece. And that's like the choice I think that we as a county make.
Mike, thanks for that. I think that's a great way to end this segment. The reality is the challenges that we face aren't easy. But to Mike's point, we don't have a choice. These things are happening. Folks are coming. The growth is going to occur. And so we have to find every potential solution. We have to take risks, recognizing that sometimes we may end up in court, but the reality is, what I'll always say, the juice is worth the squeeze. And so that's one of the efforts that certainly Housing and Workforce Solutions is focused on all day, every day. I'm now going to introduce Joaquin Tijerina to give us an economic development walkthrough.
Looks like I dodged those great questions from our CEO. Spoke too soon. Good morning, Joaquin Tijerina. I'm the Economic Development Manager for the 4th District. It's in the Eastern Coachella Valley. Our area encompasses everything from what Supervisor Perez mentioned in his opening remarks, Desert Hot Springs, all the way out to the border with Blythe. And that's our direct responsibility. So on our economic development side, generally speaking, what we do is we have a collaborative approach with our 28 cities, our chambers, our economic development organizations throughout the county. We do a number of things that let me see if this works. Perfect. We do a number of things with those that are standard kinds of things that we're responsible for in our unincorporated areas. And so for business attraction and retention, we focus on some very unique things that everybody does, including our site selection, our permitting, our domestic and financing options that we help folks find. Obviously, helping them get licensed and permitted through the county to make sure that they do it in an efficient way to get up and running. We do other things that we help them with incentives and those kinds of things that are offered through some of our utility companies. And then we help with the help of our workforce folks. We help them with the workforce that they need. So those are just general things that we do out in all our areas, including those areas that we're talking about in the eastern Coachella Valley. But from a more specific area, especially our eastern Coachella Valley, as Jeff mentioned, there's about 26,000 residents out there by Esri. We take a different approach. We have a unique situation in Riverside County in that we host a small business development center. It's unique. It's only maybe a handful nationwide of counties that actually host an SBDC. We're part of the Orange County Inland Empire SBDC, and that gives us access to a network of over 120 business consultants. Our team locally has 3 staff members and 8 consultants that are on our team that provide the services, and we're talking training and one-on-one consulting along with referrals and resources. And so when we're looking at our business helping in this eastern Coachella Valley, we have to think about the population and take in consideration that of that 26,000, about 95% are Hispanic, and we have a large portion that are either limited English or monolingual Spanish speakers. And so part of that challenge in that area is to make sure that we are providing services that they in a language that they can understand, and so that we have several staff and consultants that are bilingual. And so when we look at what we're doing there, one of the first things that we're starting and we're launching is a rural business incubator in this area. We serve folks in this area. We probably have, in the last year, served about a dozen people that are coming from this area, which we thought was too low. So we decided that we're going to take our services directly to them in the community. What has happened, everyone from during COVID got very comfortable in video conferencing and delivering services that way. And so have we, but we've seen that a lot of folks would like that face-to-face. Sometimes culturally, folks would rather have meetings in person and trainings in person. So what we've done, and this is just an example of some of the initiatives that we are undertaking, is that we're going to be working with the city of Coachella, the communities of Thermal, Mecca, Oasis, and North Shore, to go out individually in those areas, working with some CBOs from that area, community organizations that will help outreach to those residents to help them bring into our training sessions. And what we're going to do is go out there in those communities. It's either going to be a library or one of their rooms that we will provide the services from. So we have not only the training that we will give, and we will also provide the one-on-one consulting. And so under the SBDC, and I'm the director, as one of the many hats I wear as part of the Economic Development Agency. So I direct this effort out in the Coachella Valley. So we feel this is a big part of our entrepreneurial ecosystem. It's taking the training and the resources that we already have and going into the community so that they can feel more comfortable approaching us and engaging with us in this. And so we're looking at all the things that we offer through this to also provide many of the things that they need. From everything from business plan development to the marketing and social media marketing, getting them online. And if they're looking for an online presence to get on an economic e-commerce platform, we can help them. And that's what's very, very exciting about SBDC is all of the services that we provide are at no cost to the entrepreneurs or the businesses. So we're able to craft special programs to fit the needs of the communities, as in this case, is with this rural business incubator. We want to make sure that we're being, that we're providing the access to all of the residents in our areas, especially these areas where predominantly, as we've heard already, they're not engaging with the services, and a lot of reasons of that is that they're unsure. Now, what our hope is, and what we've done and our experience has been working with these types of populations, is that a lot of times they're already engaged in entrepreneurship. Some are selling things like food, or maybe they produce certain things and crafts or what have you. And so that they're already in the workspace, but they're not operating within regulatory compliance. And so this is what we help to do, is demystify that process to come into compliance. Sometimes it's working with our environmental health department to get their permits to offer food from their home, cottage food or home kitchen type of operations. Sometimes it's the types of things that they're doing. So we see the things that are happening out there, and some of this has been an issue with food vendors that are unpermitted on the side of the road. That's why we've taken up working with our Department of Environmental Health and our Transportation Land Management Agency to identify individuals that just need the help to get within compliance. Sometimes it's having information and resources, giving them the opportunity to actually go through this process. We guide them through all of this, and then we, again, deliver all of these services in both English and Spanish. We tie these things in with other assistance that we have, financial assistance. We've got a couple of different grants that we're working with internally at the county level, a Thrive program that provides grants from $1,500 to $5,000 for existing businesses or those entrepreneurs ready to launch. So we bring those things into something that, like this business incubator, that really is nothing more than us going out to the community and being active and engaged. And so the backbone of our ecosystem for entrepreneurship really goes into the things that we do already: economic development, the site selection, we do customized tours, and we do introductions. If we're talking to someone that isn't in our county or looking to go into our county unincorporated areas, we're going to introduce them to one of our 28 cities or another partner if they're looking in their jurisdiction. And so another thing for our big part of our attraction piece that we do, again, countywide, is trade shows and conferences. And so we go to different places that we're really promoting the county. As Jeff mentioned early on, this is a great place to come. We're seeing the phenomenal growth. What we do is really, we're cheerleaders to talk about the great things that happen in our county and the great opportunities that still exist. And so we go to Las Vegas every year in May. We have a 4,000 square foot pavilion. We take about 14 cities with us that partner in our very large pavilion. And we, again, promote the county and its unincorporated communities. And there's a number of different other events that we, again, go to push forward the idea that this is a great place to do business in and live. So when we get into our business development services, this is where we put together the network to kind of deliver those services on that level for the business development. Our last third quarter 2022 data says that we had 76,000 registered businesses. Those are businesses that are paying taxes throughout the county. Of that number, 96% of those are less than 49 employees. But the majority of those are 0 to 4 employees. That's 55,000 businesses in our county that are under 5 employees. We're talking micro businesses. And so when we think about working with that component, it's a major, major component of the businesses in Riverside County. We want to enhance that. We want to help them grow, and we want to also help others launch businesses. So part of the things that we do, we have business centers throughout the county, one in Riverside, one in our southwest region, and then the one in the Coachella Valley is actually a business center tied to our Coachella Valley Small Business Development Center. And so the SBDC, if you're not familiar with it, it's funded by SBA. And then fortunately here locally, we receive funding from the state and then also from Riverside County. We receive funding through all of those to provide the services at no charge to them. And so in the Coachella Valley, we are directly responsible for it. We can, in the SBDC. The rest of our county partners with the Inland Empire SBDC, our colleagues that handle that area, and do the same thing. So countywide, we are very leveraged in supporting and utilizing the services provided under the SBDC to really help drive the ecosystem of our small business development. And so just a quick factoid there on our Coachella Valley Small Business Development, the impact we had last year. We had almost 4,000 hours of consulting that we delivered to 955 clients. We helped 18 of them get financing, and it was very tough. The interest rates were very high and money was tight, but we were able to get them $1.1 million in financing for expansion and launching their businesses. So, again, that is a major component of what we do and throughout the county. Part of our the rest of our ecosystem involves, as we scale these businesses up, it might involve help through our international business office, where we help them export or import for resale products. We'll help them get into touch with those folks that they need to at the federal or the state level so that we can maximize their growth. We also do help in the foreign trade zones. We have 3 of them, one of which is here in Palm Springs, in and around the airport. There's some benefits there. We push those benefits for companies that may need those and leverage those for their businesses. Then we also have a data and demographics center where we provide information like population numbers, the numbers that you see for the businesses, what's happening and the things that are the growth and all those kinds of numbers that we've heard here today. That's our data and demographics center that provides that. And we keep partnership with a few of our education providers and others throughout the county. So lastly is about programming. I talked a little bit about we do special programming at sometimes to focus on different groups. This is just 2 examples. One was our Business Assistance Now program that's focused on helping businesses with questions within the community. It's countywide. There's a number, and there's also a web page. So far, we've had over 1,100 inquiries on that, where we're answering questions, who to talk to get a specific permit or go through a certain process. We answer those phone calls and emails on a regular basis, and we provide the information that they need. Maybe it's a resource, maybe it's a referral, maybe it's just the information that we already have in-house. So that's just, again, a program specialized in that area. The other one is our Veterans Business Resource Now program, focusing on specific groups. Here it is veterans. We have a large veteran population. we wanted to provide certain services to them to make sure that they weren't being left out as a group. And so we have a number of different things that we are helping them with, including procurement opportunities with government agencies, such could be cities, the county, those kinds of things, plugging them, helping them get the certifications that they need to be able to sell directly that. Some of them are disabled veterans, so they have certifications that help them get a leg up on bidding on certain projects, so set-asides at the federal government for those folks. And so these are the kinds of things that we help. We can tailor programs to fit the needs of the community. We have other programs where we have leveraged a community-based organization, Caravanserai Project, to outreach certain demographic groups to help get the word out and provide grants to launch their businesses. We also have done a countywide grant program called the Thrive Program that is still ongoing. We have about 225 grants that have been issued for a total of just under $600,000 in grants for folks starting and expanding their business. And so those are all the kinds of programming that we get behind, that we try to push to help these areas, especially the Eastern Coachella Valley.
Thanks, Joaquin. It's not just our community colleges, it's certainly our four-year institutions. I'd be remiss not to call out Cal State San Bernardino, who's a good partner. But one of the discussions that we have a lot is, what is the root cause of poverty? What is it that we need to address? Is it the job? Is it the housing? Is it the education? And so we spend a lot of time digging into all of those various pieces to try and figure out where we can connect with our partners. We try and be very sticky with our partners. We know that Juan has a quote, the county could do anything, it just can't do everything. And so we're trying to figure out where can we connect with our partners so that we can do different, serve a different role in different facets. Juan, I don't know if you want to touch on that.
Thank you, Jeff. I think you covered it well. Additionally, the county has paid, I think it's specific focus, and I want to credit Supervisor Spiegel. This has been something she's been championing to partner with our nonprofits. We've created a nonprofit roundtable. So it's a group that meets often to look at ways to partner with the county. Beyond just creating the roundtable, the county has seeded that roundtable with $15 million in ARPA funding for transformational growth opportunities for our nonprofits, including capacity building, technical training for them, program delivery. So I think that's one example, to Jeff's point, of how we're leveraging that. And I think the rest of the group may want to add to that too. So.
I'll add. So Juan and Jeff did do a pretty good overview, or an excellent overview of how we tie. I know. It was excellent. Sorry. of how we tie our services together, but a lot of it was excellent. A lot of it goes back to also our integrated service delivery that you kind of heard me touch base on. I mean, we could do a whole panel around that, but it's really tying in all of those root causes to poverty under one roof to make it easier for our residents to access all the various resources that we have, so that people don't have to go to 10 different departments, 10 different agencies, fill out 10 different applications just because they need assistance with a bus pass, food stamps, childcare, et cetera. And so we are well on our path to doing that. And with that, we know that our partners outside of county agencies are also a huge part of that, including education, like Juan said, our nonprofit roundtables, and so they have also been a part of that process with us too.
And one more line on that is we received roughly $470 million in ARPA, not counting the interest. I would say more than 75% of that money has been invested back in the community. We have a representative of a water board here, and we've spent tens of millions of dollars, maybe approaching more than maybe $100 million of investment in sewers and water projects. Again, trying to sow the ground. The idea, and Supervisor Perez mentioned the Acrisure Arena. That arena is in the unincorporated area, and the theory is if you build it, they will come. And so that's a private arena built with private dollars in the unincorporated area, which is allowing us now to have further development around it. Hotels, restaurants, other economic drivers. is we recognize that we have a very diverse legislative group in Riverside County. We have all ends of the spectrum, Republican, Democrat, conservative, progressive, and the reality is we all share one thing in common. Their constituents are our constituents. And so we really work on how do we work to move this together. There's a phrase I steal from President Jefferson, every difference of opinion is not a difference in principle. We share our principles with our legislators. And we know that we may not agree on this issue, but then we'll go to bat on this other issue that we do have that shared principle on. And it has allowed us to really do some amazing things locally and more to continue. Thank you all very much, and please thank our panel.